En este video, una inquietante escena de los restos de un coche incendiado por un cártel de la droga mexicano, que acaba con la vida de una familia estadounidense. Al parecer, la familia de 9 miembros cayó en una aparente emboscada.
This video of the smouldering wreckage of one of the family's cars, riddled with bullet holes, was filmed by the father-in-law of the woman who was driving it.
This is for the record. Nita and 4 of my grandchildren are burnt and shot up. Right on the road out of La Mora.
This was, a family member said, nothing short of a massacre. Renita LeBaron had been travelling with 4 of her children. They and all of those who died were members of a family from a Mormon community which settled in Mexico decades ago. Christina Langford also died. A number of children who survived are now in hospital in the US. Family members say they've seen the violence increasing.
Helpless families are being innocently killed down there. It's not just got caught in gunfire in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is a whole new level of cartel violence.
Aunque el trágico suceso tuvo lugar en una carretera de tierra entre los estados de Chihuahua y Sonora, las cámaras solo cubrieron las secuelas del enfrentamiento. El vehículo quedó calcinado, sin reconocimiento alguno. Lamentablemente, todos los miembros de la familia perdieron la vida en el caótico movimiento.
As of this point, it's not over. We still don't know what's going to happen next.
The murder of US citizens prompted this from the president. A wonderful family and friends from Utah got caught between 2 vicious drug cartels who were shooting at each other, with the result being many great American people killed. If Mexico needs or requests help in cleaning out these monsters, the United States stands ready, willing and able to get involved and do the job quickly and effectively. This is the time for Mexico, with the help of the United States, to wage war on the drug cartels and wipe them off the face of the earth. In response, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said he will speak to Trump, but ruled out any foreign intervention.
I send
an embrace of condolence to the whole LeBaron family, to the family members of the victims. This is a terrible tragedy because children and innocents lost their lives.
Entonces voy a hablar con el presidente Trump.
I'll speak with President Trump to thank him for his support and see if in cooperation agreements there's the possibility of getting help in cases where it's necessary. I don't think we need the intervention of a foreign government to deal with these cases.
Mexico's war on the cartels has done little to reduce the drug violence, and the Mormon community in the region has been the target before. Authorities say this attack might have been a case of mistaken identity. The family says without the heroism of a 13-year-old who hid his injured siblings and walked miles for help, those children would have also lost their lives.
En este video, un conductor que realizaba un trayecto nocturno evitó hábilmente que el cártel le robara el coche en México. La grabación fue captada por la cámara del salpicadero del conductor y revela el momento en que las bandas del cártel intentan bloquear el paso del conductor y rodear el vehículo.
In a self-defense encounter, for every move we make, the bad guy's gonna make one as well. Thanks for joining us on today's active self-protection lesson. I'm your host, John Correa. Today's video comes to us from Nuevo Laredo in Mexico. Today's video is brought to you by the generosity of Newbold targets. Newbold targets are self-sealing, reactive polymer targets that act like steel targets for training and practice, but are safer than steel. They allow bullets to pass completely through the target without ricochet or lead splatter. Check out their links in the description and thank them for bringing us today's video. Nuevo Laredo is right across the Rio Grande from Laredo, Texas, and I'm almost positive here that this is an American who's just come across the border and it's about to get real.
What the f is this? We can stop him from this.
En la intersección, un camión se cruzó de repente con el vehículo del conductor, pero este, hábil e inteligente, dio marcha atrás inmediatamente. Manteniendo la calma y alerta, el hombre maniobró con pericia el vehículo hacia el carril contiguo y se dirigió hacia atrás, dejando así a los cárteles con su rapidez mental y sus habilidades defensivas.
It's the cartel.
Yeah.
From comments in the description on the Raw, which I have linked in the description, you can see that this guy is now headed back towards the border crossing and back on his way to Laredo, and that's where this one ends. Scary stuff, lots of lessons to come out of this one. Have a question for you. What's your favorite ASP saying? I know I keep them, kind of a bunch of them around that we say again and again to help us remember. Which one's your favorite? I know that people are gonna ask on the get-go on this one, why would you go into Mexico with your car from Laredo, Texas? And the honest reason is, there's a host of reasons that you could. Many people who live on border towns like this, they cross the border multiple times, they got business reasons to go back and forth, sometimes family living on both sides and those kinds of things. So these kinds of crossings do happen, especially early in the morning, 6 o'clock like this could be for work. Now, we see what's coming here. This looks like an atypical, street light here coming, because you see people coming out of the way and a bunch of people that are outside of the cars. Now, I know to people in suburban America, this is going to look like, way something's crazy right now. But you know, if you have never driven in Mexico, or driven in other parts of the world, sometimes, you get across the border and the culture shifts very, very much. Now, of course, right across the border and across the Rio Grande in Texas, you know that there's an awful lot of drug cartels that are down there. So when they recognize what's going on here, you better be able to react in a hurry and know your culture. Now, he thought he was just gonna pull through, but of course now he's got a truck blocking the way. So you gotta be able to think on your feet. The number one thing as a self-defender that you have to be able to do is to continue to think, to not get into that vapor lock, but to continue to do that Colonel Boyd OODA loop where you are observing and orienting, deciding what to do and acting on it, and keep that loop moving and moving quickly. It's the quickest decision maker who is actually thinking who usually wins these defensive encounters. So he sees, I can't go forward. Now he might have been able to squeeze in on the right there, but decides, nope, I'm gonna go back. And taking some kind of an evasive driving class, I think is a good thing for most people, because using your car is so important. Notice he's got to weave a little bit, and that leaves the first guy out and gets him the heck out of there. Now, I do want to say this. Notice as he stops, that guy who is in the white, sweatshirt is probably his first and biggest problem, and going forward, he knows he has other cars there. So it might have been wiser for him in this instance to jump the curb to the left, because it looks like he's in a pickup truck where he has some ground clearance. And if you have ground clearance, recognize that curbs are merely a suggestion, and you can use that ground clearance and that horsepower to your advantage. I'm not saying to run the guy over, I'm saying to get over on the other side and get away from these cars. Now he doesn't do that, okay fine, I get it, but now that blue car, this blue little SUV is gonna get up in his way as well. Now he's gonna take evasive maneuvers, get around and away from this guy, and I think that's great. Of course, the thing that we haven't seen here is the fact that these guys are not, at least not shooting at him. And that's a very good thing. Remember, your safety lies in your speed with your vehicle. So you gotta be ready here. And again, I know somebody's gonna ask, well, wait a minute, why isn't this guy armed himself or whatever? You see that guy get out of the way, okay, fine. And now is our good guy's gonna get the heck out of the way and go? You'd ask the question, well, wait a minute, he's in Texas, why wouldn't he be armed himself or something like that? I'm telling you, man, you gotta recognize, I've been to Mexico many times.
Aquí hay un reciente tiroteo a lo largo de la avenida Aurora Norte, capturado en video de vigilancia, que dejó una persona herida. El tiroteo se produjo alrededor de la esquina de la avenida Aurora a la medianoche, cuando un sonido de disparos se escuchó, lo que llevó a los hombres de la banda para tomar represalias en el tiroteo. ambiente se volvió tenso con los disparos y se pudo ver a gente corriendo en busca de refugio. Durante varios minutos, antes de la llegada de la policía, continúan los disparos. En un santiamén llega la policía, dispuesta a acabar con los malos huevos que perturban la paz de toda la comunidad. En este video, dos gángsters se apuntaron a un altercado callejero antes de que la némesis los alcanzara. Armados con hachas y otros objetos dañinos, el dúo se bajó de su moto y empezó a destruir una propiedad. Lo hicieron durante un rato antes de decidir marcharse. Desgraciadamente, cuando se disponían a marcharse, un convoy de militantes pasó por allí y los detuvo a todos. Una lucha de poder dentro de la banda criminal más violenta de México está causando una ola de muerte y destrucción. Un número importante de personas se han visto implicadas y han muerto en el transcurso del terror.
The Sinaloa cartel's gripped in a civil war. It's paralyzing its epicenter, the city of Culiacán, and it could spread. It's the most serious conflict for 15 years.
Mientras las facciones rivales luchan por el control del cártel de Sinaloa, aparecen cadáveres en las calles de la ciudad de Culiacán.
In one of the most powerful criminal groups in Mexico. But the genesis of this war was almost 2 months ago, a plot straight out of the film.
It all starts on the morning of the 25th of July with a meeting at this ranch. One of the attendees, a 76-year-old man with a $15 million bounty on his head.
His name is Ismael Zambada, but he was better known as El Mayo, one of the founding members of the cartel. He was meeting one of its younger generation, Joaquín Guzmán. Guzmán was one of los Chapitos.
La violencia ha sido implacable con informes de tiroteos, secuestros y asesinatos espantosos.
The sons of legendary kingpin El Chapo. They were rivals to El Mayo within the cartel, but that day they'd agreed to come together to help resolve a local political dispute. Instead, according to a letter that El Mayo subsequently released through his lawyer, something very different happened. As soon as I set foot inside of that room, I was ambushed. A group of men assaulted me, knocked me to the ground and placed a dark-coloured hood over my head, said El Mayo through his lawyer. It was a kidnapping, he claims, at Joaquín Guzmán's hands.
El Mayo says that he was then handcuffed, put in the back of a truck and then driven about 25 minutes to this airstrip where he was bundled into a plane.
The airstrip's hidden in rural Sinaloa. And this is the plane. It took both Joaquín Guzmán and El Mayo, he says restrained with zip ties, to El Paso, Texas. US agents were waiting for them. Guzmán was turning himself in, allegedly using El Mayo as a present to US authorities to get a better deal. Guzmán's lawyer denies any such deal.
Some journalists question El Mayo's letter's version of events. Would he really have been kidnapped after evading capture for decades? But many others here in Culiacán see it exactly as he tells it, the great betrayal.
And it was just the beginning of trouble to come. Over 2 months, El Mayo's son, Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, reportedly made alliances and gathered forces to start a war against the remaining Chapitos. On 9th September, it began. So far, the fights claim more than 50 dead. Meanwhile, El Mayo and Joaquín Guzmán are both awaiting trial in the United States on drug trafficking and other charges.
Se produjeron intensos enfrentamientos en la ciudad mexicana de Culiacán, donde hombres armados enmascarados levantaron barricadas en llamas e intercambiaron disparos con las fuerzas de seguridad. El incidente se produjo después de que las autoridades de seguridad estadounidenses detuvieran a uno de los hijos del encarcelado ex líder del cártel de la droga de Sinaloa, Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. Se destruyeron propiedades, se quemaron vehículos y se asesinó a personas en el transcurso de esta furiosa agitación. Sin embargo, los miembros del cártel no cedieron. Las caóticas escenas de Culiacán, que resultó ser un antiguo bastión del cártel de los Guzmán, aumentaron la presión sobre la autoridad federal. Pacificar a un país cansado tras más de una década de lucha contra el narcotráfico es lo que el gobierno llevó después a la población.
Esta decisión se tomó para proteger a los ciudadanos. Es que no se puede apagar el fuego con el fuego. Esa es la diferencia de esta estrategia con relación a lo que han hecho los anteriores gobiernos. Nosotros no queremos muertos, no queremos la guerra.
Este video captó el aterrador encuentro de militantes luchando con pistoleros desconocidos en la selva de una montaña. Una repentina erupción de disparos rompió el ambiente de calma, mientras el ejército se ponía rápidamente a cubierto. Los dos grupos siguen intercambiando intensos disparos, y el sonido resuena por toda la selva. La identidad de los pistoleros no está clara, pero se sabe que se trata de un cártel rival o de un grupo local de autodefensa.
Salilo. Maju.